It's so important that we get beyond the schizophrenia and that America, as well as the church, stands behind and with Israel?
I can think of a couple quick reasons. One of the key pieces of it is that you've got one of the axis of evil, which is Iran. Iran is in partnership with China and Russia. This is the modern axis of evil. It's very powerful. The Chinese are the puppet master of all of us. Iran is attacking Israel. That's what's happening here. They have death to Israel that they've claimed, death to America that they're after, and they mean it. I think for a long time we've kind of sat back and said, oh, they chant that, but they're never going to do it. You saw the barrage of what they launched. You've seen what's happened on October 7th. You now are seeing the bigger step going into of Lebanon, and you've got the Houthis there as well. So this is an all-out attack. I don't believe that Israel has ever been more vulnerable or in a tougher spot since the renewed state of Israel was started in 1948. I think this is the most difficult time, and they're the most isolated they've ever been. And that's really my point to you, that but for the evangelical Christians in the United States of America, Israel doesn't have many friends. There are not many people that will stand with them. When I chaired the Middle East Subcommittee in the Senate, the most vocal people in support of Israel weren't the Jewish people in the United States. It was the evangelical Christians who said we have to stand with Israel. And if your voice isn't there, if you aren't passionate and pushing this, there's nobody speaking. Israel could be annihilated. That Israel that we all cheer so much for, after 2,000 years of wandering around the planet, and they're back, and the Star of David is up, could be gone. And we dither, the United States. Okay, yeah, we're for Israel, but don't do too much. Kind of hold back, but, okay, some. The second piece of that is, it is a completely horrific message to our allies, or people that look to the United States. And they say, if you're willing to treat Israel that way, what would you be willing to do to us? Or to let us just float in the wind out here if we're under attack by any number of people that are allied or potentially allied with us? It's a horrific signal for us to send, and yet we're doing it. My plea to you, pray for Israel, but also stand and speak out. This is the uncomfortable time, and this is the time they most need the friendship of the church in the United States of America. This is the most vital time. Don't be hesitant. Don't be quiet. Don't be scared about it or think, it's going to kind of hurt our congregation. You've got to speak now, please.
Thank you very much. That's powerful. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Joel, you have 5 million books in print. 5 million books.
That's come because I'm a failed political consultant and I didn't know how to do anything else.
Well, you're really good at what you do. And so to talk about from the media perspective of media, that this is your life's work, you see it from that perspective. Talk about why the media seems to be so on the wrong side of history, if I could use a phrase from the other side. But talk
how much
about
time
that.
did you say that?
Yeah,
talk about the media.
We got all night.
Look, I think since we all know how bad it is, the evangelicals experience it all the time here. So imagine the same value attack come against the Jewish people, against the state of Israel. Look, there's a whole range of different media biases, soft media biases. Journalists, editors, producers, they don't really know much about Christianity. They don't know much about Israel. They don't know much about Jewishness. They don't know much about Zionism or the Bible. It's not that they hate us. It's in this area of soft media bias, they just don't care. They don't get it. They're not covering what we think they should cover. They don't write about it from a perspective that sort of gets the whole point of a particular event or a situation. That's soft media bias. Then there's hard media bias. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're against us, and they're and they hate either the Christians or the Jews or Israel specific. And then there's Al Jazeera. right? And that's just, that's warfare. That's actually active propaganda. So, and there are subsets of all that. We're in an environment where the major media has shown its true colors in this war. Who are they really, right? When a Palestinian hospital in the early stage of the war was hit by a missile, and many were killed and wounded, and the place set on fire, the New York Times immediately accepted a press release from Hamas and did a banner headline, totally all the way across the top of the newspaper, and of course on the website, Israeli airstrike, devastates Palestinian hospital, something close to that. And every media outlet on the planet pretty much went with it. This is not soft bias. Think about that just for a second. You're immediately taking a Hamas press release and broadcasting it as truth, reporting it as truth. Why are you accepting the Nazi press release? Like, don't you take 12 seconds, 2 seconds, 30, and say, that might not be right. Let's do a little bit of reporting. Then you're assuming that Israel would do this. Your instinct is that probably is right. So Israel is horrible, and they're going to actively attack a Palestinian hospital. What is going on in your value set that you think instinctively that has to be true? Aha, we got them. From the New York Times, right? And then you think, you can just extrapolate. Now, it only took a few hours for the Israeli military, who is doing much better than ever, but it's never good enough, right? You know the old cliche, a lie can get halfway around the world before truth can put its pants on in the morning. Right? That's what was happening. But within a few hours, 6 or 7 hours, the Israeli government had shown video of it being a Palestinian missile that had fired and malfunctioned and landed on the hospital. They had video from multiple angles. Then we had intercepts of Hamas operatives on the phone going, that was us. How did that happen? Why did we let that happen? And they were talking about it openly. Not openly, to each other. And we intercepted it and we released it. But it still took a month for the New York Times to sort of accept that. So that's war. The New York Times has moved into Al Jazeera country, and you're in active battle. But they're the Goliath. So about 4.5 years ago, some friends came to me and said, Joel, we're up against Goliaths. We need to at least have a David. And would you help us start the first ever daily digital news and analysis website in the history of modern Israel? Of course, we didn't have digital for a long time, but run by believers for the believers around the world who care about what's happening here. And I immediately said, no, I got too much time, that's going to cost too much. Tremendous faith, just deep bedrock understanding of God's will for your life. But I really couldn't sleep. The Lord, knew I'm a dense person. My wife has a gift of discernment. I have the gift of obliviousness, and that's mostly women that are laughing right now because their husbands have it too, but they're not laughing because they don't realize it. So anyway, long story short, we after a little while, we did launch on September 1st, 2020 at this news site, and last month we had 5.5 million readers. That's not normal, but what's happening is Christians are craving, do news like it's supposed to be, do the opposite, do the George Costanza of the New York Times. Everything they do the opposite, right? We took 6 or 7 hours before we reported that story to wait for a little bit of context, a little bit of data, and we got it right. But we're also breaking stories. So anyway, we've had to establish a credibility. Yes, we're believers, and yes, we believe in the gospel and the Great Commission, but we're not running it as a missionary news site, right? It's a news site, so that establishes credibility. That's the only thing we care about. Yes, I and the board care about traffic, but I tell the team, credibility, credibility, credibility. And that's why when the war broke out, we went from 1 million to 7.5 million that first month, and we're settling in around 5 or 6. But because people all over the world, especially in the United States, are craving, are looking, is there any place I can trust But that's the battle we're in. It's a battle of published truth, but it's a mindset. It's a totally different mindset. And it's also about being fair. I would say one other thing. Where we get the most blowback is where we're critical of President, or when we say something nice about President Biden. But if he does something right, when he flies Air Force One into Israel in the opening weeks of the war, no other president, even President Trump, who's the most pro-Israel president in history, he didn't fly into the country during a missile war. So we gave, real credit and coverage of that. But if he's gonna abandon us, then we have to call him out on that. But fairness means you're fair. You call the balls and strikes the way they are. And to mix my metaphors one more time, football. So my wife, I married into a Pittsburgh Steelers fanatical family, and so I bought in. And when I watch when I'm in the States and I watch a Monday Night Football game and the Steelers are playing, I don't mind when the guys in the booth say, the coach was an idiot on that, and that was a bad call, it was a bad, play, you should take out that guy and replace him with something. I don't mind that, as long as I don't feel like the guys in the booth hate the Steelers and want them to burn in hell. But that's media coverage in the 21st century. You can feel that they hate whatever team or person or ideology or theology that you have, and they want you to burn in hell. They don't even believe in hell. But they want you to go there. They want me to go there. So that is, trying to do that differently is not something different than what you guys teach, in your communication journalism school. It's just that very few people are doing it, and they're certainly not doing it in the Middle East. So we're trying.
If we're going to talk football, how about Harrison Butker as the Kansas City Chiefs kicker? Huh? And getting out there for their